Okay, so I'm going to make this video to clear some questions up that some of you have had for the project, mostly on the write-ups, but we'll go over some other stuff too. So because of some of this confusion, I'm going to push back the due date to November 11th by 11:59 p.m. So that was pushed back from November 9th to November 11th. The COVID-19 data that you have to include, we're going to keep it as November 6th. So that's going to stay the same. Okay, so let's go down. So all of the deliverables, of course, they've remained the same this entire time. So I'm not going to go over this. I will mention though that take note when we have per 100,000 people and then per 100 million people. So some plots are per 100,000 and some are per 1 million. Okay, so write-ups. This is the bulk of the questions that I've been getting, or I guess the bulk of the confusion that I've seen on Discord. So you're going to provide commentary on your code for all figure deliverables that have a star next to it. So if I go up here, we have 3 of them have a star. So we have, the first one is top 5 cumulative COVID-19 cases by country. So it's on this line here where I first have the subsection. So you need to include commentary for all 3 of these graphs. I'll go over the kind of layout in a second. Okay, so that's one of the write-ups that you have. It's for those 3 figures. And then you have a write-up right here, which will only be for this plot right here. I'm only doing it for this plot here because basically all of the code that you need for this plot you have to do for this plot up here, but you're doing this on a per million basis. And then the next plot we have is cumulative deaths per 100,000 people for the top 5 counties, and this is a bar chart. Okay, and just to be explicit, I've laid out all of the correct figure or the correct subsections and whatnot that you need to have for the write-ups. So we have like 1.1.123, that corresponds to 1.1, 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. Alright. So that should clear it up for the write-ups. You have, I guess in total, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 write-ups to do. Now you want to keep them in these sections, of course. So you have one section. You can kind of keep all of this together. And then you'll have this section here and then this section here. Now you can lay it out however you want, it just has to be a logical kind of structure. Okay, so for the report structure, I actually have this laid out by section for how I want to see it. So for the first section, we have the introduction. So you can read through this and you should write your report kind of like you're writing it for a classmate that's not in the class. So think of them, you know that they know some of these technical terms, but pretend that they're actually not taking this MATLAB class. So you want to explain this at a level that they could understand. Okay, and then the next section we have is the results/deliverables. I'll talk about this in a second. Then the next section we have is the appendix. So this will be at the end of the document, and this will contain first our list of figures, and then after this you're actually going to copy and paste all of the code that you wrote for the project. And you're also going to upload your code as a separate file on Canvas. So you're going to upload your actual document, which will be a PDF, and then you're going to upload your code, which will be the .m file. Okay, so for the list of figures, what you need is a figure number, a caption, and a page number. It doesn't have to be in this order, so if you look up list of figures on Google, you'll see, you know, people have it structured in a different way. So again, I don't care how you have it structured here, I just want to see list of figures. So if we take this one for example, they have their figure number on the left, then they have a caption, and then they have the corresponding number for that figure, or the corresponding page number for that figure in your document. Okay, so let's talk about the results in a little more depth. So this is going to be where you include all of your graphs and your write-ups for each of those graphs. So remember, we need write-ups for this one, this one, this one, and then these last 2 figures right there. So, for this part, again, I'm not strict for the format for really this entire report. All I care about is that it's structured in a way that's logical and that flows well. So one of the things that you're going to have to include is showing a write-up for first starting your script. So that's clearing the memory and then importing your data. So you have to do that before you actually start the rest of the coding process for some figure, when you might sort the rows in a specific way for that figure, or do some array addressing or anything like that. So in my example here, before I even show a figure, I actually broke it down by having a write-up on clearing the memory, and then I had a little write-up on importing the data, and I sorted the table right here. But you can do it however you think is best. So if you want to show this code with the corresponding explanation after your first figure, you can do that if you want. Just do it in a way that is logical. Okay, so here I first talk about how we're going to clear the memory. And then here I show the code that we have to import the data, and in this case I already sorted the rows. And I explain what we're doing. And now we go down here and we get to where I have code for the plot. So, in your case, you're going to have more than just this. Before you can actually plot your data for the project, you have to do a lot of different post-processing. So you're going to have to include a write-up on what you did for all of that. Okay, and then we break it down. So how I did it is I only have one line here, but I broke it down in 3 separate lines that corresponds to different parts in this line of code right here. If you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to do it this way. Again, do it in whatever way you think is best. It just needs to be a way that the reader can read it and feel like it flows in a logical manner. Okay, and let's get to another important thing here. So here I'm modifying my x-axis. So I'm changing the x-ticks, the x-limit, the x-tick labels, and the x-tick angle. So I have the code there, and then I show the breakdown or the write-up for all of this code. And then below you'll see that I'm doing a lot of the same things that I just did for the x-axis, but I'm doing it for the y-axis now. So if I'm doing the same kind of code, I'm not going to restate what I'm actually doing for that code. There's not really any point in restating it because we already specified what we're doing up here. So in this case, I show like lines 1 and 2 when we change the ticks and the limit. That's going to be, a very similar thing to what we did for the x-axis up here. So because of that, all you have to do is say it follows a similar explanation to, when we first did something like that. So in my case, it's when we first did it for the x-axis formatting. You don't have to use the same sentence right here, of course. You use whatever you want, but just refer to the first time you used code like this. So, you can write out the explanation if you want, but this is just to save you guys some time. So you'll be doing it for stuff like, your ticks and your x limit, your y limit, x tick labels, whatever, and also just a generic plot command. But again, you can write out the explanation again if you want to, to be thorough. Okay, so then in this example here, I get through all of the code that we had to do to get to this plot. So in my example here, I show every single line of code that I had to write in this script to get to this final plot right here. So basically what I want to see is all of the code that you needed with explanations. But again, if you're doing, a few lines of code that are basically the exact same, you can say that it's following a similar explanation to the first time you did that. Okay, also make sure that you have figure captions below your figures, kind of like how I have it here. And then the last part is just the expected figure. So you guys have seen this for a long time. Now, something to note, I'll sound like a broken record again, but I'm not going to be very strict on how this is formatted. The only thing that I do require is that you do not use exponents for units. That's only for rectilinear graphs, though. For our log graphs, we do use exponents to better show how, a log graph is kind of denoted. Okay, let's see what else. So you just make sure you're not using exponents for rectilinear graphs or bar graphs like this. And then you also want to make sure, or rather, you don't need to use the same exact formatting that I have. Again, I'm allowing you some freedom to choose how you best want to do it. You can use the same formatting as me if you want, but it's up to you. Now, I would recommend showing the last date that we used for each graph, which will be November 6th. So we can kind of tell down here, but it's somewhat vague, so that's why I showed the actual date for the data in my title. So you need to have a legend. It doesn't have to be outside of the graph if you don't want, but you need to have a legend, of course. And I think that's pretty much it. Let's scroll through here, see if there's anything else. And of course, you need to have relevant counties or countries or states marked on your XTIC labels. Another question you might have is the formatting for this. So this is sorted by the population for the top 5 counties. So this, we start here at Los Angeles because they have the most populous county. And then the second most populous county is San Diego. And then we keep going down in population. But these counties differ in how many deaths they had due to COVID-19. Okay, so I think that's it. That's all you may have questions on or what I could help clarify. So if you do have any more questions, of course, go in the Discord. And I'll try to make sure that our next project, the handout, is very specific on what you have to do. So I think this is all good right now, but maybe it could have been a little more clear in the very beginning. So anyways, remember your report is now delayed by 2 days to give you more time if you had confusion on the write-up. Alright, so I'll see you guys on Monday.